MOOCs and open online courseware programs of high quality coming from prestigious professors from Coursera, from edX, from major United States universities in consortia with universities like this university around the world. This allows us, this is not the whole of the problem, but it's part of the problem, or part of the solution. It allows us to access very good history programs, very good philosophy programs in a whole range of areas which Melbourne's never offered in terms of philosophy and probably should have, and a range of course, many other fields of liberal knowledge in the sciences and the humanities, social sciences. I mean, it allows us to access already, and there'll be a lot more to come, and it'll get better, a whole range of things. Now, this I think has changed the equation. It's made the content side relatively cheap. It's posed some questions about the nature of that content, of course, coming from a small number of sources, but it will be good. On the whole, it will be very good. So the issue then becomes, what value do we add in an institution like this, and teaching and nesting our programs also in employability and work and transition to work are the two areas that obviously stick out. Now, it seems to me that teaching can bring a great deal to bear on in terms of translating high quality content, whether it's provided locally or online, into our heads, into our practices. And where I think that history, in Melbourne in particular, is able to do that very effectively is in that final year theory and method subject in honours. I mean, the teaching at that point, small group tutorial teaching about the craft of the historian is akin to teaching someone how to be an engineer or how to be an agricultural scientist in a hands-on sense. It's very, very significant. You can't replicate that kind of interactive formation of a theoretical, conceptual, methodological approach to the discipline, the empirical side and the conceptual side working together without, I think, the example of someone who understands that and can be sensitive to your own development as you acquire those attributes. And there's a continual to and fro, it's a conversation. I mean, that kind of, that part of the program, it seems to me, can't be done any other way but close and with high quality teaching. But I think teaching's got a major role in translating high quality content coming in online into our own formation, even at first year stage. So small group tutorial style teaching, it seems to me, is going to be crucial. And it does make a difference how good teaching is. I mean, a lot of people can teach competently. Very good teaching makes a lot of difference. That's something, I suppose, that I've picked up from my long period of working in higher education, or two things really. One is that very good leadership makes a big difference in institutions, and very good teaching makes a big difference to educational formation. I had one good teacher as an undergraduate student at Melbourne. I hope there are more now in arts and elsewhere. I had one very good teacher who really changed my understanding, my learning, and I'm very grateful for that. And I hope everyone has that kind of opportunity.
Cara, is this kind of issue going to be one that you're going to pursue as the president of the Student Union next year?
Oh, any number of issues, I guess. I think that it's a very relevant issue because the last couple of years we've seen, huge amounts of student interest in course cuts that have happened at other universities. So, for example, staff cuts that have happened at Sydney, the decimation of the music school at ANU, and now the HUS cuts at La Trobe. And I think that it's always kind of in the back of students' mind is my faculty going to be the next one to go? Because of course there's always budgetary pressures, is there going to be a review, and all of this sort of stuff. So I think the history issue aside of our students still interested in studying history, I think that course cuts and subject cuts are always in the back of students' mind. It's definitely something that we watch very closely.
Can we thank Charlotte for her passion and her question? We move on to the third place question, which comes from Alexander Schwab, who's a second year international student from Germany, currently studying commerce and psychology at the university. Alongside his studies, Alex is involved in many extracurricular activities and currently serves as the Vice President of the Students in Free Enterprise, SIFE. Alex is also serving as a consulting director with the fast emerging non-profit consultancy 180 Degrees Consulting. And Alex's question with 167 votes as well, is many renowned universities in America and Europe integrate students' efforts in social, environmental and entrepreneurial activities and grading systems and rankings to encourage real-life application of knowledge and to extend the recognition of one's efforts from studying books towards a holistic learning cycle. Do you plan to incorporate these more advanced concepts of learning into your curriculum? Glyn?
Thank you. Alexander, thank you for the question. It's a great question. You're right to point to Australia as not a leader in this area. Lots of places do this much better than we. One of the things we were really keen to do in changing to the Melbourne curriculum in 2008 was to introduce this in a whole range of ways. One of it was in breadth and another was in providing opportunities outside the classroom. And I can point to lots of individual programs, the Community Volunteering for Change, which allows people to take subjects, the BA internships, 10 weeks. Lots of people go to Parliament House in Canberra and elsewhere to work on them. The Melbourne Business Practicum, the encouraging students to do the Students in Free Enterprise, the travelling studios that the architecture faculty provides so that students can go overseas and work in a studio around a particular set of problems. And if you're around Wilson Hall anytime in the next few days, the engineering faculty is running its Endeavour Awards, which are final year students presenting projects that they've spent the whole year working on, but often working with industry for credit as part of the program. Could we do it more systematically? Absolutely. Is there lots of opportunity here? I think fantastic opportunity. The idea that students put together while they're at university a portfolio of experiences is a great one. Many people do that, as Cara described herself doing it, by getting involved in clubs and societies and student politics, a fantastic pathway. Not everybody's pathway, but providing lots of different choices so that you can replicate that either in the political and club side of the institution, but also around your own discipline and area. I think huge opportunities.
Simon?
Yeah, I mean, let's think about where things are going, and I think this is probably the right time for this sort of issue to come forward as a transformative issue. I mean, MOOCs are making it possible now to do the simple things like test people's knowledge of content and grade it without human intervention through multiple choice assessments and certification at the end of those things and so on. So we know that, if you like, a simple transmission model and a checking of knowledge in that model is now very, very easy. So what we can go a lot further than that, as we, of course we have been doing, but we can take it still further in our programs. And that means that we start to look at things like project-based approaches more often. We start to look at nested work experience more often. We start to look at looking at what people have done right outside the educational program and connecting to that more effectively and joining it. I think the practical questions are, how do we do it? Now, one thing that developed in Europe was around the Europeanisation process, the Bologna reforms, putting together degree structures into a common framework of first degree and then masters and so on, breaking up the old German model of the extended masters being the way you did university. Moving to that common approach, one of the things that happened was that a large number of nations, not the whole of the Bologna group, evolved and started using a device called a Diploma supplement. That's a way whereby you could record the graded academic performance. Now, one of the things which has developed out of the Diploma supplement as a sort of common record across Europe of your academic performance, very useful thing when you're going for a job in another country, in Europe, for example. One of the things that's come forward now is the idea of adding to that, in a codified way, other forms of experience which are seen as relevant to your preparation as a graduate. And that includes things like work experience that's related to your field of training, and sometimes more general work experience as well, because in a sense all work experience helps prepare you as a graduate. And also entrepreneurial activity, people founding their own businesses, pursuing a business activity, that kind of thing. Also public activity, also community service, things like student politics, potentially. So although these systems of recording a broad range of activities haven't really got to the point where they're, I suppose, widely usable, I think that if this kind of development continues, and if we could do something like this in Australia, perhaps one or two institutions moving ahead of the pack and creating this kind of record of achievement, then I think once we give it a codified form that the community can recognise, and once it's something that works in a common way across all institutions and all students can share in, I think then you will see quite a dramatic increase in the amount of attention given to these kinds of learnings and also student motivation to acquire this kind of experience as part of their learning.
Cara?
Yeah, I completely agree with both Simon and Glyn. I think one of the really important things about trying to codify some of the sort of extracurricular experience is part of helping students to articulate and see the value in the activities that they've done, because a lot of students are involved in clubs. We've got 20,000 students who are part of a club at UMSU. A lot of students do work experience, or they do volunteering, or they're in some way engaged in the community, but I think part of the gap there is not seeing the value in it themselves and not being able to articulate to future employers and saying, oh, well, I was a treasurer of a club and I was in charge of a $10,000 budget and we organised, you know, a ball, and I have these organisational skills from that. And so I think that's one of the really important things in being able to sort of make students aware of the skills that they're gaining and helping them to articulate in future circumstances. And part of it is obviously institutionalising it and making it from day one of orientation clear to students that, no, it's not actually just about turning up for 4 hours of tutes every week, as unfortunately many students see it as, and that's obviously we're a product of our times as well, and students are under increasing time pressures, but encouraging students to really see that whatever they put into university is what they get out of it, and to meet as many people and to get these experiences. And even if they do have a part-time job where they're working 20 hours a week, to go to public lectures or to read about, you know, eminent people in their field and things like that, and to record those things and to reflect about how it's helped them evolve their way of thinking and where they get to in the workplace. So
I'd like to hand over to Alex, who's obviously got a lot of interest in this issue.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for your answers. You said, Simon, you said that engineering takes universities to tell people hands-on how to do things. And I think, especially nowadays, where do you think is the value-adding process of a university in future, when you can just go online and search Wikipedia and search iTunes U, where you have your great heroes of lecturers there. So where does university see their value-adding in, for instance, commerce or law even?
Simon?
Great question, and that's probably the question in a lot of ways now. I think, you know, where's the value add? And the old transmission lecture model as the centrepiece is no longer the value add. That's clear. Thank goodness for that. We're going beyond that, and it's very challenging because we have to change quite a lot. But I think the value add lies in relational things. You know, it lies in enabling you to understand, to situate yourself in a social and work context, not just a work context, but, you know, it's certainly a big part of it. It lies in your capacity to understand that context and to relate to others in it. It relates to your capacity to utilise skill and knowledge in a practical way in life situations, to anticipate and imagine what you'll need to do next in life situations. So a lot of it does in fact lie in the very things that you've identified, I think, in bringing those things forward into the program and making and connecting the program to them, not necessarily subsuming them in the program, but, you know, connecting the program to them and enabling people to use their extra classroom experiences in a self-educational way. It seems to me what education's really about is self-formation. It's about the conscious, reflective, individual capacity, or perhaps it's a group capacity too in some ways, to work out what you need to learn and to learn it and to move forward and to learn more and continually reflect back, criticise yourself, move ahead. You know, it's in triggering and enabling that self-forming capacity, which is the role of teachers, the role of the environment, the role of the situations that students are placed in by the institution. You know, it's in helping students, if you like, to be at the centre of their own learning, not in a sort of superficial sense of saying they're consumers in a market, just buying a service. What I mean is piloting their own learning as a deliberate life process. And I think this broader range of options has to come onto the agenda, because otherwise students are going to, or young people are going to say, why go to university? We can learn more outside. You know, we can learn more in a job, we can learn more in travelling and a job, we can learn more in running our own business. So the university needs to be ahead of that. It needs to do more than just what those things will do, and needs to nest that self-forming activity in a larger institutional context and develop a sense of the global, the world, the environment, the international environment, different cultures, gender, class, all of the larger differentiating and explanatory educational aspects of society. So that's what the university can do. It can bring people into that bigger context, and it can enable them to put their self-formation in a much larger picture than it would be if they weren't students.
I think we'll have to keep moving as we're a bit pressed for time, but I'd like everybody to thank Alex for his question.
We hope you enjoyed the discussion. Why don't you jump online to oursay.org and post your comments there, and check out the new forums we've got running. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.